Welcome to the Humanity Mosaic podcast, exploring authenticity and connection with Dr. E. Thank you for joining us today as we explore issues that affect our relationships in today's world. And now welcome to today's episode with Dr. E.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here today, and particularly happy because I have an incredible guest, someone who I met many years ago. We became friends. I followed her work, and she has so much to offer to the world. My dear friend, Suzette Shahmoon, is in the UK. She was originally born north of England, but left the UK with her parents at age 13. And she traveled with them, finally settling in the south of France. Her exposure to multiple cultures has made her just such an open, loving, kind, and just embraceable human. And she has continued to do all of this work, pointing towards connecting people, having us understand our connection and how important our connections are, and particularly how important the connection is to ourselves. She trained as a therapist and is now in her final year of her PhD. And I'm so happy to kind of support her through this process because this is something she's been working on for quite some time, and it's well deserved. Many of us spend time trying to get our PhDs, and it's just the book learning that we focus on. But Suzette has really focused on the people, on her clients, and the state of the world, and how much all of this matters. So without saying anything else, I want you to meet the beautiful Suzette Shahmoon.
I'm overwhelmed. I've never had such a beautiful introduction.
I said Suzanne and it's Suzette, but I'm so overwhelmed just bringing you on to the show that I'm so excited. I'm beside myself at this point.
So cute. Thank you for the most beautiful introduction, seriously.
Well, we could go on and on about our relationship, how we feel about each other. Here we are on opposite sides of the pond, but you would think that we were born in the same hospital and we had little bassinets next to each other. That's how close our relationship has become over time. And at the same time, it's something I want to share with the world, because what we have developed is such a beautiful example of what happens when you really honor the connection to yourself and open yourself up to the connection to others. And that's what we have managed to accomplish in such a beautiful way.
It's so true. I remember the first time I met you. And I remember I was speaking to other people, and then all of a sudden you stood in front of me and you had this beautiful smile on your face. And I looked at you and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, because people don't normally gravitate towards me in the way that you did. And for me, I'm normally quite shy. And I will put myself out there, and I will go after people sometimes to just talk to them and try and get over my own insecurities. But you came up to me with this beautiful, warm smile. And I just remember sitting there going, okay, she's smiling, she's warm, she's open. Come on, go with it. Go with it. You've got to do this. And just by trusting myself, okay, I knew I could trust you. You've got that energy about you. But trusting myself that I could just be open and speak to you and not be the shy self who I was for so many years. We've been able to build this amazing friendship and connection, so that even there are times when I'll just text you or you'll text me out of the blue, and it just feels like I know there's something going on with you, or you know there's something going on with me. And it's amazing. It's been an amazing journey just getting to know you.
Likewise. Or as the younger ones are saying now, samesies. Suzette, can you share with people really, how do you get there? How do you get to that place of when you see someone and, perhaps you feel like they're reaching out to you, or you see someone that you want to reach out to, and just as you said, this whole phenomenon of trusting ourselves and being able to enter into a space isn't something that just happens automatically for everyone. Can you share a little bit about what kind of work do people need to do to be able to be open to that?
It's a really good question. It's a really big question. You know how sometimes therapists speak about inner work, right? That's exactly what you're asking me about. It's that part of yourself where you actually have to open up and say, okay, why do I sometimes react this way in certain situations? What makes me believe what I believe about myself when what I believe about myself is not serving me and is not serving others? And I think that's probably the places where I would start. It's definitely what I've been doing for the last, I would say, 15 years of my life since I started training as a therapist. It made me aware of the fact that there are so many different patterns of behavior which I was running, so many different beliefs that I was running about myself, about other people, about the way people treated me. And once you start looking at, where does this come from? Why do I behave like this? Why do I think this about myself? That's when you can start going, okay, now is that true? Like, if this was somebody else telling me this, would I believe that? Why do I believe that about myself then? If it was my best friend who was saying these things about themselves, and that they're doing the best they can in life, would I be allowing them to think what they think? Would I be telling them otherwise? And that's pretty much the beginning of the process. It's, I call it's your emotional baggage, right? It's unpacking those emotional bags and looking at what's in there and why you've packed those away, and why you're carrying them around.
Right. That is so very, very true. And of course, aligned with what I teach as well. It's interesting because we don't unpack this baggage, and what's in there is not just things that we have made up. They're messages that we've received from other people over time. And we never really bother to take the time to ask that question, is that true? And so we create this false narrative. And the false narratives are such huge obstacles to true connection and belonging. And I've recently started really sharing with so many people that it is not for someone else to tell us whether or not we belong. That is something that we have to do that work ourselves, that inner work, as you so beautifully described it. Do you find that people come to you, say in your practice, looking for ways to connect deeper or ways to actually learn how to do inner work that will help them to heal or to overcome some traumatic event or just a life that's been difficult? We can talk all day about what's actually trauma, but life can just be difficult for people. And when they come to you, what's the big ask?
It's a good question. I think I've found that there are 4 areas which people come to me that they're struggling with when it comes to it is always about connection, whether it's about connecting to themselves or connecting to others or connecting to their planet, connecting to an ideology, connecting to a community, whatever it is. There's always something that they're trying to connect to. People at work, connecting to their bodies. There's always something that they're trying to connect to. And what I find is very often there are 4 areas. I break it down into 4 areas: being heard, being seen, being accepted, and being valued. And when people start talking to me about, whether they're dealing with anorexia and they're not listening to their body. They're not valuing their body in the way that their body deserves to be valued. They don't accept their body in the way that it deserves to be accepted. They don't see themselves the way they deserve to be seen. They see a different version of themselves when they look in the mirror. It's working on that. That's the structure that I tend to use now, because I'm hearing it all the time. And when you listen to somebody, I think that's what therapy is about, right? It's the first time where if you can do it with me as a therapist, you can do it with yourself, you can do it with anybody else. It's just having that experience for the first time of being heard. Come on, speak. Tell me what's going on for you. Tell me how you feel about that. Show me why, show me what is happening in your life. Let me see so I can understand you. Let me accept that this is how you feel. Let me accept that this is how you see yourself. Let me accept you for your values, but in the most non-judgmental way possible. And let me make you feel valued so that you don't need to act out in the way that you're acting out. That's pretty much the way I like to work with a client.
I love that. And so many things that you said there ring so true, because one of the things that I frequently share with people is that the more you love and know yourself, the better the quality of your relationships. And unfortunately, people don't understand that unless you really go deep into your own being to understand who you are and how you show up in the world, you're going to have difficulty with your connections. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned how they're looking at a version of themselves, but the challenge with looking at a version of yourself is these versions are not real. And that's why I'm always saying, go for the authentic self. Go for finding who you truly are. Now, this moves me into another area. I'm Christian, you're Jewish. Mm-hmm. And we have learned from each other. So, Suzette, that brings me to something else that's interesting about us. You know that I'm Christian. I know that you are Jewish. Mm-hmm. And we have shared our love for the divine, for Source, our Creator, for God, whatever name that we use in order to just honor the divinity of one another. I look at you and I see in you a beautiful woman who your spirit is just warm, kind, loving, giving. Of course, I came up and stood in front of you with a big smile. It's like, I want to know her, And yet, we live in a world where we can allow so many things to divide and separate us that should not be things that separate us at all. And, we're coming up into the winter holidays. People will do what they do. Some people will not go see some people because they don't want to offend. Or in organizations where I work frequently, it's like, we can't put up a Christmas tree because if we put up a Christmas tree and we don't put up the menorah, then so we'll just do nothing, which makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. What are your thoughts just about how we can love each other across differences and still respect one another and not believe that we're giving up on our own beliefs or we're cheating ourselves or we're somehow doing something wrong? I mean, I know we've never had that struggle.
No. And I think it's that thing of, you accept each other, you value each other. I love how you honor your traditions. I love that you value the way I honor mine. I love that we don't have to agree on everything. I think that's the point, is when you feel, I actually think there is a part of, there are some, I have to be careful about this because it might not come out the way I mean it, but I think there comes a point in time where if you feel completely secure saying, I don't need you to share in my beliefs. I am secure in my beliefs enough that I have no problem with you sharing in my beliefs. And I'm also secure enough in my beliefs that I can accept that you have your beliefs and my beliefs don't have to align fully with yours. I'm okay with that because you're secure enough in your beliefs that you don't need me to agree with you, that we can be on from two very different belief systems. But what I do need from you is I need you to respect that I have my beliefs. And I have to respect yours as well. And there's no scientific evidence when it comes to faith, because we're talking about, religion, culture, all of these things. They're big areas of life, things that we all, we ascribe ourselves to. And there's no fact when it comes to ideologies and faith and beliefs. So we've got to just go with our gut and what's in our hearts, right? And who am I to tell you what's in your heart is wrong? Just in the way that I would never want you to tell me what's right in my heart for me is wrong. It's coming to that place where we can just accept each other. So if I walk into a place and there's a Christmas tree and there isn't a menorah, I am okay with that, because at the end of the day, what I want to do is honor you and your beliefs. And if you walk into a place where there's a menorah and there isn't a Christmas tree, I want you to honor me for my beliefs and celebrate. We can celebrate the differences in each other. I think the problem is when we try to impose our beliefs on each other, that's when the world gets into a sticky mess that we're seeing all over the place. Yeah. And it's a shame, because I don't think we're supposed to all be the same. I just don't. We're too different. We look different. We're going to behave differently. We're going to have different faiths and beliefs. And actually, that's the beauty of humanity, that we have all of these differences. I mean, we just need to celebrate them and accept them and not try and impose them on each other.
I totally agree with that. And, that is the very thing that I am constantly trying to help people to understand. I don't believe it is the job of anyone to convince anyone of anything, but it is a beautiful thing to be willing to share. I'm always willing to share what I know, to share what I believe, but I am not obligated to refuse to leave the room until I'm convinced that you believe the same things and in the same way that I do. I've said to people often that what really works in terms of trying to share something with someone that is precious to you, that you want respected, is to respect it yourself. To respect it yourself and to have enough respect for yourself and whoever you happen to be with, to be willing to share what you know, be who you are authentically, and to peacefully coexist with others in a way where you learn and you grow and you come to respect the differences. I would hate to live in a world where we were all the same. It would be awfully boring.
But I think we come into that. So, I have my spiritual beliefs like you do. Yeah. And I think we come into our families to learn just that, because if you can manage it in your own family, you can definitely manage it in the rest of the world. Okay. And there is, if you have a family where you have children, or just you'll have your parents, or you'll have cousins, or you'll have a surrogate family, whoever it is that you consider as your family, no one is going to be your clone, and you're not going to be a clone of anyone else. Right. And so I was blessed. I had 4 children. And I have sat there and oh boy, have I learned my lesson. I will sit there and I will impart every belief, every value, everything that I feel is true. And as my kids have grown up, they have taken everything. And I don't know if you have a pick and mix. Do you know what a pick and mix is? Where you go and they're all the different candies and you get a bag. And that's what my kids have done. They're like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that. And you can keep that. And I'll be like, no. Why? No, that's a really good belief. No. Take that one. Take that one. That one will really serve you in life. And they'll be like, no, mommy, that's good for you, but that's not right for me. And the first time your child ever does that, it hurts like hell. And you're like, no, why? I feel like a failure because I've tried to convince you that this thing that has been so amazing for me is going to be amazing for you. And all of a sudden you have these, you can have arguments with your kids and that's where you, all of a sudden they teach you that, actually, do you know what? My kids are not me. And it's been a road and a half learning that actually my kids are not me and they're absolutely entitled to go. And I want them to question, I want them to examine, and I want them to be curious. But once they've done all of that, if they've made the decisions which are right for them and they're not the same as I would have made for myself, I have to respect that. And if I can do that with my kids, I can actually do that with everybody else in the world, because it's the hardest.
It is so true. We do try to keep our minds open to the belief that you can learn something from everyone. Whether it's something good, something that you want to actually take and incorporate into your, sort of learning base, so that your knowledge base, so that you can gain wisdom over time by learning all the different things that people can bring to you that are gifts. And you can also learn things that you don't want to do. You can learn how to perhaps not fall into the same ditch that you see other people falling into over and over again. But children in general, whether they are yours or someone else's, are such a font of knowledge and well-being in the way of how to be in the world. Yeah. And if we pay more attention to children, we would all be so much better off. I've had the same experience with my kids. It's like, no, wait, what about this little piece? Just try it. Just try. No, Mom, that one's not for me. It's not for me. And I have 3 children, as you know, and they're all very different. Mm-hmm. And now 7 grandchildren, all of whom are very different. So I have 10 beings that, I had something to do with bringing into this world. And I can look at each one of them and say, the individual differences are phenomenal, because they kind of came from the same root, but they have grown deep roots, and they have grown upward and out into branches and leaves, and they have created this tree of life themselves, that when I stand back, I'm just in awe of who they are, who they have become, and how they move through the world. And for anyone who's listening to us, if you are a parent, let your children thrive. Let them thrive.
But there is a lesson in that, right? So
absolutely,
this is where the whole connecting to self comes in, because your child can be going through, like all of us, right? You go on your journey of life, and you take twists and turns, and life will throw up its challenges. And when your child is going through something, or they're making a decision for themselves which you disagree with, that's when you can turn around and you make it about yourself as a parent. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. I've failed. How did I not teach you this thing, this magical thing, which would have made your life so much better? And we make it about ourselves. And if you can actually learn that, actually, if your child is going through something which has nothing to do with you, or even if it does have something to do with you, like, you're never going to be perfect. Don't even try that. It's just not going to happen. Learn from the experience if you can. If your child comes to you and says, because of you, I'm this, okay, take that on board, work out Are they telling you the truth? In the sense of, is this something which you need to heal within yourself and fix and change and take it on the nose, and that's really hard? Or is this your child is projecting this onto you because it's easier for them to say, I'm angry because you make me angry. Why? What did I do? Because you're so this, and I can never be like you. Okay, well then that's your emotional baggage, and you're trying to make you a porter. No. Take it back. That's yours. And I'll be here and I'll let you vent at me. But I know that that's not who I am as a person, and I'm going to stand strong in that, and I'm connected enough to go, okay, honey, I think you're struggling with this because it's something that's yours that you don't want to take ownership of, and I'll hold the space for you, but you need to work on this. And that's where the whole, you can connect better when you're connected to yourself, right? But you can only do that if you've done your own inner work.
It's interesting because one of my children, my middle child, I gave her this little sort of metaphor in order for them to be, this particular child identifies as non-binary, formerly my daughter. And we talk about these things all the time, constantly. And my child has had such a journey that when I think of them, I sometimes just have to stop and breathe because I'm so grateful that they've made it through this journey and that we are still so closely connected. And at the same time, I had to say to them at one point, you are much more capable of riding a roller coaster than I am. Here's what I want you to understand. I cannot go on every roller coaster ride with you, but please know that right down the road, there's a bench and there's a beautiful shade tree, and I will always be there waiting for you when you've come off the roller coaster ride that I couldn't go on with you. But I'll always be there waiting for you. And just that visualization for them and for me has just been, life-changing. And we can actually speak to, Mom, I'm on a bit of a roller coaster ride right now, but I know where you are and I'll find you, And as a result, I'll end up getting the whole story later, but I don't get the story as it's happening sometimes because it's more than, sometimes it's overwhelming for me because this is still my child, grown, but still my child who I love. So it's so interesting how we can find ways of connecting, just find that image that you can give to your child and to yourself that allows you not to be able to just get completely derailed. Suzette, when you have been in situations with clients, children, family, friends, and you recognize that the big challenge is someone needs to do their healing work, and they haven't done it. They haven't even come close to it. What are some of the ways that you might be able to say someone who needs to do some healing work? I think that there is some work that needs to be done here. How do you approach that? Because so many people, whether it's parents, friends, spouses, there's unhealed wounds in all of us. But sometimes those unhealed wounds render us dysfunctional. What sort of techniques or talent, skill, abilities, competencies have you been able to bring to that area?
So I think, look, it's tricky and it's challenging because I think everybody does the work they need to do when they need to do it in their time. So I think the first talent and skill is recognizing that even though I can spot that sometimes in someone, they might not be ready, and just accepting that they're on their journey and they will come to it when they are ready, when the time is right for them. So that's the first thing. And I can say that because I know if someone had told me 20 years ago what I needed to do, I wasn't ready then to do what I needed to do to become, well, to heal some of the stuff that I've healed. And you know what? There's no doubt I'm not this unbelievably healed person who's, risen above, and transcended. I'm not that being. I've got plenty of flaws which still need a lot of work. And there will be certain things where I will literally open up that box and go, nope, not doing that right now. And I'm going to close that up because right now I don't need to do it. Because I'm human and that's what we do. But there are times when if someone seems a little bit open and it's not going to hurt them more, because there are times when it can hurt someone even more. If I'm the right person, I think that's the next thing, is recognizing whether you are the right person to expose that part that they need to start working on. If you feel that you are the right person, if you feel that it's appropriate, the timing is appropriate, then there are kind and loving ways of showing the person what it is that you think they need help with. And it's either by pointing it out lovingly and saying, you always say that, or you always do that. And actually, I question why, because I see so much in you. I had a conversation with someone recently where she's constantly talking about how she doesn't like the way she looks. And this is a beautiful woman. And she's a beautiful person on the inside as well. So she's even more beautiful. And I sit there, and the other day I just looked at her and I'm like, I love you dearly, and please don't take this the wrong way, but why do you always say things about yourself like that? I don't understand it. And have you ever questioned where that comes from? Because what you say about yourself is not what I see. And I know other people don't see what you're saying about yourself. Have you ever questioned that? Just saying it in a gentle way, rather than, well, you're being dumb, or, there's always that way that some people take. So there is that. Or sometimes just sharing a story. If you see someone's got some healing to do, which is similar to the healing that you've done, sharing your own personal story of, do you know what, you remind me of me. A couple of years ago, I used to feel that way, I used to behave that way, I used to think that way. I did exactly what you did. But then not trying to be the same as them. For me, it was about this. For you, it might be something else, because we're all different. I love the name of your podcast, Humanity Mosaic, because we're all different. It's all different things. And I think just being humble about the fact that everybody has their journey, and even if they are coming at life in a way which you think is something that needs to be healed, don't try and preempt that you know why and where it's from, because you might think that, but that might not be true either. You don't know exactly how a person feels or thinks. You have never lived a day in their life, let alone their lifetime for them. So pointing it out in a loving way, trying to show them ways in which maybe you feel similar, and then leaving it with them and trusting that they will come to it in their own time.
I love that. As you are well aware, because we're both therapists, people are constantly trying to tell us what we need to tell someone else.
Yes.
And, that can be very frustrating. But what I do say to people who are put in that position, therapist or not, that it's important to remember that, particularly if you're connected to spirit, I have a little sort of guide that helps me with that. And I call it access and opportunity. When someone tells me, you need to talk to so-and-so about this, and I'll just look at them and say, may not be mine to share. I may not be the right messenger.
Yeah.
But if spirit lets me know that I'm the right messenger, there will always be a window of access and opportunity for the words to be spoken. Just as you were describing a friend that talks badly about their own appearance. And then all of a sudden, the opportunity is there to say, I wish you wouldn't do that. It's not at all aligned with how I see you. And I do wish you could see yourself through my eyes. And the conversation will move on from there. But waiting for that access and opportunity is so important. And you will know if you're the messenger, if you're really tuned in to yourself in a way where you're not just trying to course correct someone randomly, but this is kind of a sacred moment where you've been given the covering, and actually the words will come that will impact that person on that day in a powerful way. So it's one of the reasons that I love the name of your podcast, which is
Hand baggage only.
I'm just going to say, if you want to hear more from the fabulous Suzette Shahmoon, you have got to tune in to Hand Baggage Only. And where can they find you? I know it's on Spotify and YouTube.
Absolutely. I'm on all of the platforms. It's a podcast which is looking at how we connect in friendship. You were my first guest. I absolutely loved our conversation. It's all about how we connect to our friends and how certain situations can create disconnection, and how we've got to make sure that we're not bringing our own emotional baggage into our friendships, because sometimes that can create that disconnection. Everything that we've been speaking about today on this beautiful conversation that we've had.
Absolutely. And what I want all of you to know is that there will be a part 2 with my beautiful friend here, because when we get together and we have conversations from opposite sides of the pond, from starting out in very different ways in life, when we look at all of the differences that there are between the two of us, and yet we look at the quality of our love, we know that there's hope in this world for everyone to have meaningful and beautiful connections. Suzette, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking to you, and I love everything you do. Thank you.
Samesies.
I love that. Samesies. Thank you, my darling.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Humanity Mosaic podcast with Dr. E. For more information, please visit deborah.egerton.com, and be sure to check out theauthenticselfcommunity.com to continue your journey.